morning, everyone. So we're doing another do-it-yourself project here at the cabin, and what I have here is a mounting plate for the ceiling fan. So if you look right up there between the horizontal members there, we're going to attach a ceiling fan, and the purpose of this fan is merely just to push the hot air from upstairs back down so it can circulate through the cabin. So here's the bracket that comes with the ceiling fan. It's a little bit too narrow to span the gap of those two boards. So what I did is I built a bridge, and you'll see the pre-drilled holes. That's the distance that this bracket needed to be in order to fit. So it almost fit. So what I did is I just took a piece of this I guess it's a 2x6, 2x8 piece. And I've pre-drilled the holes, and I've already mounted the base plate to it. And so now all I have to do is take the base plate and mount it across the members like so. And I drilled a hole in the center so that I could pull the wires up through. And because this area right here will be actually between the boards, we don't really need what is called like a box for it to go in, a junction box. I'm just going to wire nut it off. It's all low voltage stuff anyway, and it'll sit right above this. I could later come back and mount a box here if I wanted to, and I may do that. I may see if I have one, but for the initial install, we're just going to do it like that. We'll pull the wires up through here, and we'll do our junction right up above this, but you won't see it. It'll be between those two boards up there. So here's the rest of the fan I wanted to show you real quick. So I have to set the ladder up, and then I have to go up on the ladder. I pre-drilled the holes, I got the screws, I got the drill gun, and this will be pretty quick and easy. Here's the fan. What it looks like. It's just very simple. There's no light kit on it. I know it looks like a light, but it's not. But what it is remote controlled, which will be nice because the fan's going to be hard to reach. You're not going to be able to reach it once it's installed. So there's no chains hanging down or anything like that. All it is remote control. You can do it from down here, and you can turn it on, turn it off. There's 6 speeds. It's also reversible, and I believe the blades are also reversible. I haven't even looked at the blades yet. Yes. So we'll probably do this side down because it looks like the wood. Or you can do the dark side. It's a little more modern looking. So we'll probably opt for this side down. It's not a very big fan, as you can see. It's 52 inches all the way across. But it'll be big enough to push. You just want to push the air a little bit. You don't want it to gust. You just want to move the air from upstairs downstairs so it can circulate all the heat, and not all the heat goes to the upstairs and you're still cold down here. So these all still have to be mounted. I picked this fan up for $50 on Marketplace. A gentleman met me. It has everything in it. It does look like they tried to install it and it didn't fit their space. They needed a bigger fan. And that happens. I benefited. This is a $109 fan if you buy it brand new, because I took the model number and I crossed it over into Amazon. You can get it at Lowe's, Amazon. $109 retail fan. And the reason it is so kind of a pricey fan and with no light kit, because you're paying a little more for these blades. These are indoor-outdoor composite blades, which means if there's humidity, they're not going to sag. They're going to keep their shape. So that was important, because in the spring and fall, we want to open up these new windows. We like to be outside. We like air coming through the cabin. So we don't want our fan to start drooping, and they will start drooping if they get too much humidity. So you pay a little more for these blades, but it's worth it. And the remote control, because there's a receiver and a transmitter, you pay a little more for that. That's really about it. I didn't care about a light right there, because we already have a light. We have this wagon wheel light, and so we don't need a secondary light that's even higher, like way up there. It really wouldn't do much. So we just want a nice, small, nice little fan, can push the air down. We're going to have to do all the wiring for it, and I'm still having to look for some wire. I'm going to see what I can come up with, but we got to get to that point first. Let's hang the fan, and then we'll work on the cosmetics of the electrical. We were in Lowe's yesterday, and I didn't realize they were going to want so much for just 12 gauge THHN wire, solid wire, and it's outrageous. I would have spent $100 on wire, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I have wire, I have most of it. I'm going to see what I have in the garage. I think all I have is bigger wire, which you can use, but I don't know, we'll see. And we may hunt on Marketplace too to see if I can't find some of the same size wire. And then we'll have to do a junction box and then extend it. And I plan on tying it into the electrical outlet upstairs on a dedicated circuit. This fan only draws 35 watts, which is like an amp and a half. It draws less than a light bulb. So we're not talking about a big draw here. It's a very small draw because it's the type of fan it is. There's no lights on it. And so it doesn't draw a lot of power. So that's going to be good too. So anyway, we'll get started. I'll get this ladder set up, and I'll get up there and get this thing mounted, and then I'll start putting these pieces together, and I'll take video along the way. Hey guys, so I've got this in position already, and I've put 2 of the 4 screws in. I just wanted to get it set up before I turn the camera on in case I drop tools. You don't need to see all that mess, right? So I got it where I want it. I'm just driving the nail screws in. Okay. That should be good and strong. Making sure the heads are all flush. So I got maximum nail in the board. And that's where the fan is going to hang in the slot. So now I got to go down and put the fan together. And then I'll bring it all up here as one unit and hang it. It's really pretty easy. I'll be down in a minute.
You wouldn't catch me up there.
Yeah, I don't
Look
like,
at this.
I don't like getting up here, but once I'm up here, I'm okay. It's the going back and forth, carrying tools.
A little too high for me.
The ladder is fully extended too.
No way.
Okay, we're back at it. So we got the base plate installed, and that sweatshirt was getting hot, so I had to do a little representing Veteran Nation here, give them a little plug in. Put my t-shirt on, and I'm going to set the camera up right here, hoping that you can see kind of what I'm doing here. So I do have the owner's manual here, and this has been installed before, so some of these pieces are already put together. And I've done a few ceiling fans, and they're all kind of the same. This one has an option. You have an option of 2 different size down rods. So you have a 5-inch and a 10-inch. And I'm just kind of looking up there and I'm thinking, there's not much difference between them. And I really don't think it would matter which one in this case, because the fan is going to be in such an open space. This one's already set up. It looks like the previous owner has this one partially already put together, or I'd have to transfer all this hardware over to this rod. But for me, I don't think it's going to be any difference. This one will put it 5 inches closer to the ceiling, so maybe that's what we want. There'll also be, if there's any moving around like this with the fan, it'll be less with the shorter rod. So those are 2 arguments to use the shorter rod. So we're going to go with the shorter rod. Now, if I want to change them out, it's not hard to do that. Okay, so here's the main motor. I'll get you in here a little closer. Let's see. This is the main motor, and we still have to put the blades on. Now the instructions have us installing this, kind of piecing it together, but because we're up on a high ladder, I'm going to piece it all down here, carry the entire unit with the stem all the way up, and hang it. That's all you got to do to hang it. So I'd rather put it together on the ground than to put it together on the ladder. So we're going to do it a little bit different than what the instructions are saying. But first we have to uncoil this wire here. Now some fans, most, in fact this is the first one I've seen that has a pin connector on it. So that also tells you it's probably a little higher quality fan with the push pin connector. Usually the fans just have 3 wires coming out, and you'll have a wire nut kit or a bag of, tools like this. There's a small bag here. I think these are for putting the blades on, and we'll get to that. And then here's another bag. I've already used some of the screws in here. These are like concrete anchors, so we won't be using those. And these are wire nuts that we'll probably be using later. I'm not sure what these are for. These are little pads. Not sure what they're for. But we'll get to it. So what we got to do is just feed this wire. This is the top because it's going to hang in the yoke like that. Boop. So while you're wiring, you don't have to hold the weight of the fan up the whole time. All you do is assemble the fan, and I'll have Therese help me. She'll hand me the fan once I get in position, and you just set it in the yoke like that, and it holds it for you. And then you just pull the wires up and do your wiring. So what it's telling me to do is to feed this wire up through here. Come on. Once they hit the little, there's a pin in there that's a cross pin it keeps wanting to hit. I think this needs to come out too. There we go. The wire comes up through. And then we have to pull this pin here, which I'm glad they left it in there. At least you're not looking for it. It doesn't get lost. There's some screws on here. You just have to back them out a little bit so the rod can drop down in. Okay. It's hard to see. The lighting in here isn't real good. There we go. And the pin just has a little cotter pin that holds the whole thing on. So that's what holds the whole thing. So now we're going to tighten up these 2 screws. It's just a Phillips head. I have it right here. Tighten them up. Try to get them as even as you can. I'll go back and forth until it's good and tight. Okay, and so that should be good and tight. And so we'll be holding the fan like that and then setting it right in the yoke like so. So, let me go to the instructions real quick, but I believe it's going to have us putting the blades on here pretty soon. Okay, there's some things that, I may have forgotten a couple things actually. Yep. Okay, I forgot a couple things. There are a few, the shroud and the covers and all that needs to go on the rod before you actually attach it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, here, let me show you what we've done so far. So these 3 pieces here had to be put back on the stem. So we just had to take that off and feed these back through and then reattach it. So that was real quick and easy. We just set this kind of in the box there to help hold it. Now what we're doing is putting on the blade brackets. We've done 4 of them because we don't want to bore you to death. We just want to show you how we're doing it. So I'm using a combination of the drill bit on the drill and a hand screwdriver. So I use this to loosen them or take them out because it is faster. And the little blade brackets, if you can see it, it says up. So it tells you which side is up. So that side needs to be up. And up is actually facing down in the box. So you got to remember that, or you'll put them on backwards. And then you just screw it back in. Now the hand drill does a good job for long screws or doing jobs quickly, but I don't like to torque it down with this because you'll end up either over tightening them, breaking off the screw, or you know, you won't be able to gauge how fast it's going, and sometimes you strip the screw heads. So I run it down with the power drill, and then I just use a hand screwdriver to tighten it down because I like to feel, you know, how tight it is, and you can't feel how tight it is with the drill gun. It's got a lot of torque. So this is all done. Now we did skip a few steps in here because it wants you to go up there and mount it first and then put the blades. But as I mentioned before, we want to mount the entire thing down here on the ground and then carry it up there. So we skipped step 6. Really, we just skipped step 6 because we'll do all that up there. Step 7 we just did. Oh, they do have these decorative covers. We haven't put those on yet. I don't know what those look like. These are the little decorative covers. Oh, it looks like it goes over the blades. Okay, so we haven't done the blades yet. So here are the blades. It looks like you have several screw choices, but for these blades you have one. So all you do is you line up the 3 holes in the blade with the 3. You've got 6 holes on the things that you attach the blades to, the bracket, but that's probably for different styles, different style blades. So they manufacture them that way, so you have options. You have the screws for, yeah, that's probably them right there. I'm trying to figure out how the decorative cover goes on there. Let's see. Oh, okay, that would mean that you screw them on from the back. Well, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, I got the little decorative cover, and it just pushes in place. There's one for each blade, and there's, you see the 3 little pins, the 3 holes. You just line them up with the holes in the blade, and you screw them on from the back. This in some kind of way. It looks like the screws have a little washer that goes with them to, you know, protect the coating. And you can start these by hand. I just want to see how it's going to fit on there. So it's got to go through the blade and everything. You see already? Nope. Okay, that's right. Never mind. I thought I had them upside down. I forgot my fan motor is upside down. I don't think you can really use the power drill on this one. They're pretty short anyway, so the hand screwdriver would be better. We have to line the holes up, which Teresa's holding a flashlight there because the lighting in here is so bad. It's hard to see. Okay. A couple of things that I've seen I like better on this fan than the one we took down from up there. It was cracked right here. So one of the main blade brackets was cracked like almost all the way through, and it's plastic. These are metal. So that's a better quality right there. So that's another difference that you would have in price too when looking at these fans. So we're going to go ahead and continue this on the other four blades. We'll be right with you. Okay, here we are. As you can see, we've attached all the blades, and all it is, if you can flip it this way, it's 3 screws that go through the back plate, and then it actually screws into these decorative things. So these are acting as a washer, and they screw right into here and through the blade. So we went on and did that. The last step here, as far as putting it together, is this bottom base plate. It looks like it just simply screws on. And all that does is cover all the screws. Okay, that's all set. Now all we have to do is go up the ladder and hang it. Okay, so we're upstairs now. We brought the fan up here, and this bag here has 2 things in it. It has the remote control with a holder, so you can the hardware to attach it to a wall like downstairs where you're going to want to operate it. We'll leave that in the bag for right now. And this is what we're going to need. This is the transmitter, or the receiver actually. So this transmit, when you push this, it's going to be talking to this box, and then this box is wired to the fan. That's just a plug and play. Just put stuff down. Here's your little antenna. This will I'm just looking at this for the first time to see if there's like any switches on it or anything like that, but we'll check that out. I think it's just plug and play, right? So here's your black and your white wire. That'll have to be wired to the house. There's also a ground wire on the bracket, and then this will just plug right into the plug that we ran through the rod. So this really, I don't even think this has to be attached. It will just sit up there, and then you just plug it in and you're ready to go. So first we're going to do is hang the fan. So I'll have to get on the ladder and get in position, and then Therese will just hand me the fan and I'll hang it on the hanger, and we'll do all the electric after it's up. Okay. Okay, hand me the fan. Watch your blades.
Are they gonna do tricks?
Well, I'm hoping the blades, yeah, don't drop it. I'm hoping the blades will fit around the ladder. I'm gonna have to grab it from the bottom. These wires just go up through the middle And you just pull it and just hang it. And the little ball is slotted, and you just turn the fan motor until it drops into place. I just did that so you can hear it drop. So there's the fan, that's where it'll hang. Now this shroud goes up over. There's 2 screws that are already here. You just line the screw heads up. I think one of them is not backed out enough. Okay. Now, I brought with me both screwdriver types, so I didn't know what it was going to be. But most are Phillips. It is a Phillips. So then I get my arm in here and tighten these screws up. And they don't have to be overly tight. Good and snug. Okay, I got one of them. The other one's a little harder to reach. I need to move up a spot here. And I need to be able to swing this out of the way a little bit. Okay, it's good and snug. I'll come back down one so I can see what I'm doing. Now to cover the screws, it has a little shield that you just slide up the bar. And it covers the screws. It's just kind of a little decorative cover is all it is. The one on the bottom also slides down. Slide that one up and you're left with a nice clean look. These wires are here and we're going to deal with those later. What I do need to do is that receiver. If you'll hand me that. And I think the best way to do this will be from up top. So you can hand me that. Got it? And I need to get up there where I can see, so I gotta go up another rung. Whew. Okay, so these are the 2 wires here I'll have to attach to once I get some wire ran over here. I don't have the wire ran over here yet. Okay, it's connected. And I think it can just sit up here. I don't see any reason why it would fall. So we're just going to set it here for right now. I do have some 2-sided sticky tape I could use, or I could build a little bracket or something, but I think it's okay right there. It's okay right there for now anyway. Another thing we might do is, let me come down here. This piece of wood here that I had to fabricate for the building mount, we have some brown paint. We might hit this with some brown paint just so that it blends in with, you know, the dark wood here and the wood here, and it doesn't kind of, you know, stand out so much, because, you know, it looks like you built up something. So you want it to kind of blend in. So we won't be able to turn it on right now. We don't have power to it. But so the next step would be to start figuring out how I want to run the wire over here. If you look there behind you is the wire I'm going to use and the conduit, but I need to rerun it. I need to do some work on that. I just hung it up there to kind of get a feel for what I needed to do and if the wire was going to be long enough. So that wire alone is not going to be long enough, but it's close. It's within 5 feet. So we're going to go ahead and bring this wire across here. I got to run it through the conduit. I got to cut the conduit, and then we'll bring the wire along this lower beam, and then we'll do all the wiring right up in here. You won't see it. So that's the plan. Now the plan is to get off this ladder.
Please. I could never go up on the ladder, and the whole time he's on the ladder, I'm praying, and my stomach is like up in my throat.
And that's how I get on and off the ladder.
Yay! I'm glad you're off the ladder.
So we'll do some wiring work now. Okay, I wanted to give a little update of what we got going on here. So you saw the wire previously that was strung across here. I had to pull another 20 inches or so through the conduit there. They actually call it raceway. It's like a wire concealment track that it runs inside of. And I'm cutting these up in pieces because I want to go underneath these girders here, or these braces, and go underneath. And I don't even have to really drill a hole. This wire is so thin that it actually fits right in the groove between the tongue and groove boards for the roof. It fits right underneath there. It's a tight fit, but it does pull through there. So I've got the wire measured out, and we learned a lesson. There's a lesson learned here. Here I tried to paint here, and I got some overspray on the wood, and so because of that, and I did use cardboard to try, but it was going to have to clean that up somehow. So anyway, we learned a lesson there. So over here, we're installing another racetrack, and I've painted it before I put it up. And the paint does dry really quick. It took about maybe 15 or 20 minutes out in the sun to dry. So it's ready to go up. So how do I get to it? Yeah, that was my dilemma. So what I've done here on top of this kitchen canopy, these are large studs, 4x4 posts that are holding this canopy up. It looks pretty well screwed in and nailed. It looks like it could be a floor. It just wasn't finished. So I took a couple of 2x12s that I had outside and staged them like so the small ladder could bridge the gap. So you got to be careful when you're doing this. Make sure you don't go out beyond this rafter here, or you can tip that board and then potentially fall. So one board's really long, one's shorter, and that's okay. So I should be able to, with this setup, be able to climb this little fence here from upstairs, step down onto the boards and climb this ladder very slowly, very carefully, not throwing my weight around so those boards don't move. And then get this track tacked up there. It's just 4 screws, so it should be pretty quick. That'll get the wire over to here. And then I have another raceway outside that's pre-cut, or I've already cut it and painted it. So I'm kind of waiting for it to dry. So in the meantime, I'll put this segment up. And then the second piece of raceway will go up on the board. I haven't decided whether to go under the board or on top of the board. I don't think it really matters. I may just go under the board. There's enough width there to tack it onto the board. because I've got the same kind of boards over here. So I'm able to use these to see if things are going to fit before I end up out there, because the boards are all the same. So then I'll run the raceway here. I think I'm going to go under the board. That way you'll see less of the wire, if any, from the ground after I'm done. And I did cut it just short of the mounting block there so that the wires could come out and freely bend, and then you can work with them. You don't want to run the raceway right up to the block, because then you'll pinch the wires, and you want to be careful. The ends of the raceway are sharp, and they probably really should have like a plastic collar on them to keep the wires from, you know, rubbing the cover off and potentially arcing. But again, we're not dealing with high voltage wire here. I think it's 16 gauge, maybe 14 gauge, really small wire. So we're only talking about pushing 1.5 amps to this fan. That's all it takes, 35 watts. So it's a really low wattage fan. But you still want to be mindful and careful of those sharp edges, and that the wires aren't coming across those sharp edges and you're not pulling against them unknowingly and scraping a wire. Because we had to be pretty careful in here when we were pulling the wire to make sure that we weren't scraping it on the edges of the raceway here, because there is a little gap here. And so it goes under the board and then to the raceway. But the edge of this raceway is sharp, so you got to be careful. And I used a flat tip screwdriver to kind of bring the wires down and guide them into the raceway so that it wouldn't cut the wires or the coating on the wires. So you just got to be mindful of what you're doing. Once the wires are there and in place, I don't think you're going to have a problem with them. And that's it. So I am going to be a little short on this wire. There's the outlet I'm looking to go to. Right now, that's where my heater is plugged in downstairs. Remember I was throwing those breakers? So this wire, though, I want to hardwire in. So I call this a kickboard. I'm not really sure what it is. But I'm going to remove this kickboard. There's not much holding it. Run the wires behind the kickboard into that plug box, the junction box behind the plug, and wire nut them in or put them onto the screws on that plug. So I'll be borrowing power from that plug. But again, we're not pulling much power. This is a plug that's not used that often outside of running this heater. And so I think it'll be fine. It'll be out of sight, out of mind. This is the raceway for this piece. And what I'll do is I'll run it right here and run it all the way down to the corner. Let the camera focus. All the way down to that corner. And then I'll run the wires in behind that kickboard. But right now this wire is not going to be long enough. It's going to be close. As you can see. Let's stretch it out here. It's going to be a couple feet short. I think 18 inches, 2 feet would do it. So we'll have to come up with something on that. Now what I could do temporarily, and I haven't decided to do that yet, is I could pigtail an old extension cord and wire nut it to these wires and then just plug it in. And then at least we'd have a fan that's working. But I still need to resource 2 more feet of this wire, so we'll get back to that. We're not to that point just yet. So we'll get up on here and tack this up, and then hopefully by the time that's done, the other raceway for over here will be dry, and I can tack that up, and then all I gotta do is wire up the light, which I think is really easy. It's just 2 wires and a ground, I guess 3 wires, and it'll be good to go.